Good morning.
Okay.
Should we do a cable connected to the screen, or do we?
Oh shit. Then so the next thing is adding. Yeah, adding the beamer.
I think there's a Chromecast connected to it, but Chromecast only allows us to do one screen at a time. It's a very dodgy.
لا ما في داعي خلاص غير هذا ويندوز التجديد
Careful.
Yeah, it's crazy. Something's happening.
Yeah, it should be. Is there a remote? Do that.
It just doesn't turn on.
No, we haven't tried it.
Turning it on sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, but it seemed like it was on.
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
So that's why I was like not sure. I thought maybe they would need to turn on something else. I don't know.
Let's see.
So I don't want to go and start
No,
fiddling.
it might also have been turned on if the switch.
You want to sleep?
No, something is.
Yeah. Oh, it's firing up. I see. Yay. I think we just need to move a bit. Like.
And the size is okay. I don't know if you can.
No, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Dash.
A little bit. This should be okay.
Yeah. Should we just turn the lights?
Yeah. So welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here and. Okay. Okay, we're gonna start in 1 minute. Sorry.
I don't know, guys. Do you know each other, or it's the second class for you, for some of you, right? First class.
Yeah.
First class for everyone.
Yeah.
First class for everyone. Oh, okay. So that's good. Fresh start, everyone. Right?
Is this one for the first session or not the second one?
For
For the class.
This is the very first one, right? It's like for everyone. The introduction.
I was studying before. I did like 2 months, then I have to stop.
okay. 2 moments. We get the last people. We're gonna start. So.
Yeah.
Anybody starts?
Yes.
I already started.
We
We were
are
like
ready.
waiting for last people. Is everyone here?
I think so.
Good morning. So available here?
Yes, please.
One first.
Well, I guess we're just gonna start anyway. Right?
I'll come in later then. I'll do it after the break, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being on time. And sorry, we're running a little bit, a few minutes late, but we will get better next time. Thank you so much. Maybe since this is the first time we're together, I think it could be really nice to do a round where everyone says, even though we have the name signs, we say our name and if you want to say anything about yourself, like where you're from, or like anything you want to say, we can just start.
Yeah, slow introduction. So
yeah.
As you see, my name is Nerius. It's pretty hard to pronounce, I guess. I'm 25 years old. I'm a front-end developer. I work in the field for around 6 years now, and well, I'm here to teach you and help you out with a kickstart your career in front-end development. So, yeah, feel free to ask me anything anytime, and yeah, I guess that's a good start, right?
And my name is Nune, and I've been a developer for a couple of years, and I've been working here at Hack Your Future for half a year, and really love it here, and I'm really excited about programming, and really like to teach and learn, and very happy to see you when I'm not here. I also like to organize events that are programming events, but only for women. Because I think it's nice for women programmers to sometimes get together. There are not always so many women who are programmers, so it's nice when we have our own little club. So for the two of you in here, if you're ever interested, I would love to invite you for that.
I'm interested.
Perfect. So happy to hear that. We can go this way around.
Present?
Yeah.
My name is Will Landa, so my shop name you can call me Ubi. So I just come from Afghanistan. I've been living in Denmark for 4 years. So currently I'm going also to VUC in 9th class. So
Very nice.
I live in Oslo.
I'm Henry, and I'm originally from Afghanistan. I'm married, I have a son, and I've been living in Denmark for 5 years. And I have some education back in my country with high school, and I did some work with the different companies. And that's all.
My name is Ahmed. I'm Palestinian from Syria. I've been in Denmark 2 years.
My name is Mohammed. I've been here for 3 years, 24 years old. I have some education in university, and I hope to learn this new skills.
My name is Vasil, 31 years old. I'm originally from Palestine.
My name is Masi. I'm from Iran, and I'm living in Denmark around 1 year. My education is not regarding computer or IT, but by attending the IT class, then I was interested. And I'm not very experienced in this job. Since I'm interested, I attended the class. I hope to fulfill that very
My name is Mehdi. 29 years old. I'm from Iran.
Yeah, I'm Chagedu. I'm from Bangladesh. I've been living here more than 6 years. Just, I have some education, university education from Sweden. Yeah, I'm Mohammed, and I'm 19 years old. I've been living here for years now.
I'm Zahid. I'm from also Bangladesh, and I've been in Denmark
years. I guess. And yeah, that's all.
My name is Ali. I'm from Afghanistan, and I'm 29 years old. I have been here for 7 months.
My name is Süleyman. I'm from Turkey. I have been in Denmark near 1 year. I have about business or finance education. Also, I want to learn about CSS or HTML.
My name is Mohammed. I'm from Syria. I have 36 years. I'm married. I have two children. I have been to Denmark 2 years. I worked before for 6 years hardware and software.
I'm Tala. I've been here for a year and a few months. I'm 17 years old, and I'm here to build a future for myself.
I'm Eddie. I'm Palestinian Syria. I have been here since 2015, I think. Yeah. I'm 23 years old.
Well, thank you so much for all the introductions. It's really nice to get to know you, and I personally am really happy you have all the signs, because I can be bad with names, but I will do my very best to learn them.
Shall we start?
Yes.
I don't know how much you know about HTML and CSS and what's it about in general. Maybe I want to ask you guys to answer me. What is HTML and CSS? And if you know, raise a hand and give it a go, and we'll go from there. And
Very honest with you, HTML, it's always works with the fonts and everything which we write in the body of the web page. And the CSS is mostly based on designing that web page and the coloring and the graphics and margins and these things.
almost correct. Very good direction though. And basically, let's start with that. They're coding languages, and browser is the application. So they're considered as the browser languages. So we write code, and browser as a tool understands. So there's a third language of a browser, which is JavaScript, but it's we'll hear about it more in the future. So HTML stands for
hypertext markup language.
Yeah, and CSS is cascading style sheet. Yes. So you were right about CSS, that it's basically made for styling the visuals. So CSS is only about the styling and how it looks and how it operates visually, while HTML is a markup language. It's all about structure and what it is, the data that's in the page. So first we write HTML and explain what it is, and with CSS we style it. That's a very general explanation what it is. And what else?
So this is the overview. So I want to ask you if you all had the chance to go on Slack already. Yeah, we saw many of you. If anyone has any trouble using Slack, come to me or Neus in the break, and we will help you get started. Because it's gonna be the place where we will give you a lot of information, and also it's really important that if you ever have any questions, you can ask it in there, and we will try to answer as quickly as possible. Then I want to ask you if you all had the chance to look at the material before this week. We sent, I can show you here. There's something called week 0, this one. Did you all have a look at this one? Yes. Great.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Good. So now we are at week 1. And for week 1, we have the whole class for today in a file called make.md. And it's really important that you know how to find these pages and that you know how to look in here, because this is where you can see what we are going to learn today. You can see what we're going to learn next time, and
The list of the homeworks.
you can see homework exactly. So this is where it's all taking place.
Should we start maybe with explaining a bit of GitHub? Or
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yes. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Going to GitHub, that'd be really
Yeah. Okay. Since in the future we're gonna hand in homework in GitHub, and this is a service which can host projects in a short way, but Git itself is a software to version control your products, and maybe we'll dive into that a bit later. But I urge all of you create an account on GitHub. Actually, we all need it, and we'll show you how to create projects and upload files there. And what else do I need to tell about GitHub?
We're going to talk about it a little bit more at the end of class, but your homework for next week involves GitHub. So it's really important that we spend today making sure that you are on GitHub and that you feel comfortable using it, because you will use it for your homework. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through the class.
So maybe let's dive in a bit into code itself, the HTML.
Yes.
Or resources.
Why can't I find that right now?
Yeah. So yeah, today's agenda is first, I guess, the introduction of where to find information. Then we're gonna move on to a assignment and the task that we're gonna do there today. And lastly, we're gonna talk about GitHub, where and how we're gonna upload and use it to do our homework and etc. Right? So maybe let's start with while we will be learning HTML and CSS, we could be a resource for you where to find all the information. But at the same time, there is places on the internet that you can always find a lot of answers. So I would love you to all know these places and check them out often, and use them as a first resource, and ask your colleagues, us, and find it yourself as well. So it's just a part of learning the code. It's always out there in the internet, and there's always right places. So maybe let's kick with the official developer groups like MSD that actually they do release the whole coding and CSS rules. So there's a group of people, like organization, that they are the ones responsible for what's going to be released and how it's going to be released. So that there will be the primary source of all the information of code. I know it doesn't sound much information now, but you need to know that these places are the starting point where the code is released. Let's call it that way. Maybe we can just move to those. So so these are a few of the links that I would like you to check them out on your time and keep them in the back of your head, because this is the place where all that we're going to talk, it's there described in detail. So we mentioned some of the code, some of the markup language and how it works. You can find entirely in the detail and about it everywhere, like in MDN, and the page of that starts with MDN, also these CSS references. So these are the places. So be sure to check them out. And yes.
And I maybe also want to just introduce right now to say that maybe you have this idea of what a programmer does, and the programmer is somebody who knows all the answers and is just like can do it all, and actually it's not true. The real programmer, the real professional programmer is a person who's really good at finding the information that he or she doesn't have. So programmers, when you see them working, they sit all day and they Google. They look things up on Google because it's impossible to remember everything. So it's really good to know already that you can look. You have to find the good sources, but it's important to know that you can always search for the answer. You don't have to memorize things.
Yeah, it's in the day, like you cannot learn everything. There's always new stuff coming out, and the way we learn is you learn how to learn. So by looking at the other people's code, by giving feedback to each other, by looking at other people's code, and it's very important to but go and look and inspect the other what we see online, and just learn from others. So let's not reinvent the wheel and just reuse what's there. So that's the core, I think. When you learn to do that, it'll be very efficient and effective. When you, oh, no, I've seen this before. I just go there and look it up and do it this way. I'm not telling you to copy things from other people. Get inspired and see how they did it and learn from that. So that's, I guess, what we wanted to urge you to do.
Yeah.
So, and
talking about the feedback.
Oh yeah, we talked and we think that it's really important step in learning again, giving each other feedback. So at some point we want to, then when we give you homework tasks, we maybe assign teams, not teams or people, and we would like you to give each other feedback. So when we have homework, and let's say at some point of the week when right before the delivery, we would like you to see someone else's code or homework task and give notes or try to understand what they did. And if you don't understand what they did and it works, ask questions. So that's what we plan to do, and I think this is how we're going to go through with other homework in the future. So be sure to know each other and be respectful with the comments, but also at the same time, ask questions. Don't be shy. It's all about that. Give feedback to other people as well.
So the way it really practical, the way it works is that you have homework for next time, and you will have someone else who will look at your homework and give you a little feedback. And you will yourself also look at someone else's homework until next time. And it's not a chance to be really mean and say this is wrong. But it's more also a chance to share it, and also if you can help the other person or the other person can help you, it's great. And we want to try and do that so that you talk a little bit more before next time, and we communicate mostly in Slack. So at some point in the week, we're gonna remind you, hey everyone, did you remember to give feedback to your classmate? And then this is what we mean.
Yeah, but then again, go ahead, just read what we wrote, and it's explained in the same way we try to explain right now. So.
Yeah. So sorry again, like we are starting now today with so much information for you because we're just starting and you need to know all this stuff. But we are just about to get into the really exciting stuff where you actually try to code. We promise you're going to do that today. This is the good part when you don't just sit and listen, but you try and code. That's the fun part. So we're just about to get into that. In order to work a little bit more with all the concepts that you will be reading about before today, you had a lot of readings that hopefully you all did. And in order to work with a little bit more with them, we have this assignment for you. And you see it right here. You are going to make your own web resume or like a CV. So it's a fun task. And it's one page. And it has two files, HTML, CSS. And here you see all the things you have to add into this page. And you should have all downloaded a text editor, and you will be using your text editor to create these two files.
So, do you have a text editor open and let's start digging into.
How do I use my text editor?
Great question.
Yeah.
There are no, like, all questions are great. Like, please ask us questions as we go along.
Which one you prefer?
That's the thing. It's very opinionated thing. There's plenty of text editors, and it's something that you like or you prefer, and one will say is one better, other says it's what's more comfortable to you. So I urge not to follow what we have, but at home when you have free time, test others, see which one actually rocks your world the best. So I mean,
Do you guys use it? Because we have CodePen here as well, and we can also use it as a local.
Yeah, you can use a CodePen. Yeah, we can
use
use CodePen. I'm pretty sure we're going to use CodePen and we're going to keep it there. But I still want you to have a code editor in your computer because this is where you're mainly going to spend time. I mean, if you're going to work on video projects.
I can show you here. I have Sublime. I'm going to open it right now. Yeah, and I'm going to make a new. Yeah.
I mean.
So actually, this is a good example because this is I have something called it's hard to see, but this is called index. This is an HTML file. If let's say I want to make yes.
Well, Sublime is officially they have a license, but you can
yeah, but it looks the same as Atom. Did anyone download Atom? Yeah, great.
I use Visual Studio, for instance.
Yeah.
There's Atom, there's Coda, there's plenty of them. Text editors are usually just an actual notepad, but with more features that will help you to code, color coding, and so everybody has their own preference. That's perfect. All of them are equally good. Just pick one, and I will get going.
You have Atom. Great.
Yeah, but
really good. Really good.
That's true. That's a very good choice.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try to actually CodePen. Be a better place to. Okay, no. Then okay, for class we need to start with the maybe next classes for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That information uploaded in GitHub.
Sorry. GitHub is right now we're just showing a text file that's hosted on GitHub. GitHub will be uploading. That's why we want you to work on your local machine and not in CodePen, but have with your text editor, save it somewhere in your computer, because at home you'll have to use GitHub to upload these files to GitHub from your machine. So we want you to step by step go in that direction. So yeah.
So you should open your text editor, and what you should do is you should start you should make a new file
and name it index.html. It's really important to name it your first page always index.html, because every time browser or any machine that works, it opens a folder and looks for index file first. So it's always remember the first page of any pages is always called index. So
Ahmad, I'm so sorry you don't have a laptop.
Actually, I have one, but
if you want, I can give you mine. You can actually work right now with my computer.
Okay.
So I just want you to get to know. So
I opened. So you say,
if you know where to start, please do. I mean, I would all, but either you can.
And that's it. And then perfect. And then you just want to make sure you save it. Please wait 1 second. Anyway. Very cool. Nice.
The basic things.
And which text is that?
Brackets.
Nice.
That's
Good. Good.
So that's what you get when you open it first. So
So you already have? You have Copen. Okay, we prefer it. So Copen is okay, but we want you to have.
It's dangerous. Curriculum. We had your future Copenhagen. We're actually slightly different. Your future dash Copenhagen. Yeah, your folder structure. Right now you didn't even save the file. They'll ask you where to save. Now you can name it. Index.html. So it's the first page in the start. So if you ever have a hosting where you put your website, you put it with the index.html file. It will be the first file that the browser will open automatically.
Can you go back to the
Yes, of course.
I'd suggest using editpad.
Also, I'm gonna just share because we have this is the task for today. I'm gonna share it inside the Slack channel.
Well, that's the thing. Code is just an online tool to test code. So I need you to have something in your computer. So try Sublime or try.
It's the last link in the Slack channel.
Try Atom.
Oops. Wait, sorry, I just gave you the wrong link. One more second.
That's text editor code.
Now it's the right link.
I'm gonna update the list in the curriculum. There's already we posted in the 0 week.
So assignment.
So it's one of the many. So I suggest testing them out.
Oh, yes, it's right here.
Copenhagen.
So if anyone didn't sign up for the Wi-Fi, it's right over here.
Okay, this one.
Oh, you got it right.
Yeah.
I can also.
So that's first page. Check the page. Also, when I just put everything, just either open a project, see how much you don't have a project.
This is a great question. I'm gonna say it's everyone. Okay, everyone, I just wanted to say we got a super good question here. Somebody said he made an HTML file and he wants to see it, not just in his text editor, he wants to actually see how it looks. And this was a really nice question. So you should save your HTML file somewhere.
Not here.
And
because right now we're in
then you have to go in Finder and you have to find the HTML file and you double click it.
just creating.
Where?
On a folder, yeah. When we find the folder on desktop.
So you have to where did you save yours?
Yeah, that's on Visual Studio.
But did you save it in your desktop or in a folder?
No, that's in the HTML file. Just maybe, and then I just put it on
next time
desktop.
In your desktop. So go to your desktop and look for the file and double click it.
Because it's not saying like Notepad.
Yeah.
But it's easy to find. So the web browser.
So try to show me. So you go to the desktop.
Following. Yes. What?
Oh, the ground.
But then it shows you all the also.
Same like no.
Can I show anyone else how to open it? Because it's hard to exit.
You have enough power, you put it still with it. It'll get some in a few minutes, maybe, or 15 minutes. So,
Yeah, it's a big task if you go to this laptop. And you go to this. Oh, yeah, you click the yeah, sorry.
Why, are you hacking my computer now? What? Do you have a, may I ask, do you guys have a simple chargers, like with the simple ground? Because the only charger that has ground is here, that has the third, and they need it. So if your charger is a simple one, just has two holes, maybe you want to switch places. That'd be.
So you need this one?
Yeah, he can only charge on this charger because it has 3 holes. Does your charger have the 3? Sorry. Can you guys just swap places with the? Can you just for a second? Yeah. It's gonna be really because your charger can go there, but yeah, and he's the one that can hear. Yes. Computer. I have Linux. I see. Just do the. Well, I just have to wait. Sorry. Thank you very much. So just yeah, it's almost there. Thanks, guys. Well, I'll promise to find some more chargers next time. We'll get everywhere. Yeah. So yeah. No, just sit down here. Just bring your computer here and. Oh, it did fit there? Oh, actually, they need to swap places, actually. I'm sorry. You can go back here if you want. Oh my. You champ. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks. So,
I have a question.
yeah. Yes.
So after we finish this part, we start with the CSS part.
Yeah. If you know something, go nuts. Do your own job.
Yeah, but
we're gonna go together for a moment.
So
I'm just waiting for everyone to get their text editor ready, and then I think we're gonna go through code all together. Okay. No. Ah, keep in mind, but if you have it for him, it would be nice if I kept it. Yeah. So, of course.
بس هيك ولا
personal information. يعني اسمك عمرك ولدك هيك اشياء. صورة كم سطر عن مين انت education work experience.
If you can, yes. We're just trying to wait for everyone to get electricity, power, and text editor, and then we're gonna go all together. But if you know how to start, please do so. Try to, when you start doing this, try to look at the structure of your HTML. Yeah. Yeah, the information is correct here. This is our task. We're gonna go through it together. Nope. I'll come here. What was your question? Again. I still okay. Copenhagen.
Yeah. Oh, looks really nice. And were you able to open this one? Oh, yeah. It's here. So nice. Good. Good.
Yeah, one moment. I will show on the computer how to maybe we start doing them together and explaining the code. Some of them are waiting, so
But yeah, you need to download the from Chrome. So yeah, sorry, if you didn't pay us, we got it before. That's clear.
now we're in a conversation. Yeah, of course. Okay, so do everyone have power plugs, electricity, energy, and the editor open?
Take your time and set this up, since you will need this.
Shall we proceed with the? Shall we do it? Let's start it from scratch.
Yeah.
Creating a project because folders and stuff like that. We also like for a lot of people. Sure.
Yeah.
So Danish keyboard?
Yeah.
Oh. For me it's big. Okay. So
we're gonna just do a quick demo up here.
Yeah.
Some of you already went a little fast, but for anyone who wants to follow along, we're just gonna show you now how you do this.
in most cases, text editor looks like this or similar to this, pretty much. When you first time open it, you'll create a new file, and in this case, I just click the Command or Control New, and it will work on any browser. So you see, first we get an undefined, because in any text editor you can code with any language and anything. So first you need to specify the file, and you could try to save it. So what you can do is just go on File and save it, and it'll ask you where and what. So each computer is different, but I suggest you guys creating somewhere a folder. In this case, I'll just create a a project folder on a desktop, but I suggest creating somewhere in your documents or something where you put all your projects, because you're gonna have a lot of them. Trust me. In the future, we're gonna create a lot of websites and projects, and they're gonna each one will need their own folder. So in this case, it's and as I said, always initial file is called index.html. Why index? Actually, I also suggest you guys Google and read about why at some point in history people called the first page index, and why every time we upload our website online, the first page needs to be called index, or So yeah, when we have this file, we can see that this is the what we get. Usually, some of the code editors automatically identify what kind of coding language you're writing, and it will help you by when we start coding. It will give us, you see, color coding, so we can see how it looks. Well, do you know anything about a regular HTML page structure? There's
Doc-type HTML.
yes. Now it's a doc-type HTML. It used to be, first when we open HTML, we need to specify what kind of type of website it is. It's not always was only HTML. I'm just lazy to write it from scratch. That's why I'm. Where is the our index? Okay. So that's a typical structure of a HTML website. So first we describe what kind of file this is, because it used to be before you could also have different types of HTML. It could be XHTML and other types, but right now the most type it's a shorthand. First of all, it's the shortest way to write. So we just need to declare this is a doc type HTML. Then we start with a HTML tag that wraps all the website. So wait, I'm just gonna copy all of this and then now we're gonna go through it. Yeah. So mainly HTML documents always consist of a few things. There's HTML body tag, and you can notice all the body tags are all the element tags in the HTML language are closed in the bracket. So it has to open with a close, and at some point in time needs to close. So the closing means just having a slash before it. Then the HTML is divided in two parts. It's a head part and the body part. So if we do this, you can see that this is the classic HTML structure. You declare a body type. You say that I'm going to start writing my HTML code inside of here, and then I declare two parts, head and body. So this is the minimum amount of HTML you need to write to have a semantically correct code and start coding. The head part is where you describe something that's not visually visible. So this is the data about your website, about your HTML page. So in this page we describe that's called metadata and some extra information about the page itself. So which is not visibly visible from when you load the website.
The title on the web page.
Yeah, like that's a good example, like a title of the web page.
Comments inside the head box.
You
can also put some comments inside.
You can put comments everywhere.
Yeah.
A comment is what you call a comment. Is this one right here?
Yeah.
This one, your computer is not going to read it.
Yeah.
It's just for you.
Yeah.
And it's a very good practice to comment code. If you especially sometimes do something crazy or weird, but if you comment it down and comment it, other developer who are gonna look at your code, you will understand. Oh, he meant this and this. So comments is a good practice always, even if for yourself. After half a year, you come back to look at your code and you're like, "What the hell did I have done here? I have no idea." But if you leave a comment here, I'm gonna write this and that, and So comments is good for you and good for every developer around. So it's a good practice. Do it more often than not do it. So. And yeah, you can see there's a lot of other tags that we haven't seen, but these are like you in as if in every coding language you need to tell what kind of coding, so, what kind of symbols, what kind of left to right, what kind of language this website is built in. So the browsers, they can open it and understand it. Okay, this is maybe a page where the letters are actually written from left to right or from right to left. You know, we have different kind of world. And UTF coding, it is for your fonts, so the symbols would be understood for the browser. Maybe this doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but the point is here that in some of the in the head part, we describe a lot of things about your website. So we'll learn about these later on, but these are necessary. And okay, so when we...
Is there any questions for this? Like when you see this, do you have any questions? Yeah?
For the HTML, I don't understand why you put class or lang. I don't understand these. I didn't read anything about them.
So what do you think has happened right when I specify lang? Correct. No. I specified that this page is going to be probably written in English. So the browser, it's not important as if like dead to end, important to write. But when you do this, it's easy for Chrome and other the browsers to read it. And then, you know, sometimes our Chrome suggests, hey, this website is in French. Do you want to translate it? Because we help the browser to understand more about the website. The more information you give about your website to your browser, the better it's for Google, the better it's for user, for everyone. So the more information you provide, the better. In this case, it's not always important to subscribe some of this information, but it's good habit, good behavior.
But, just a very short question. How can we get these notes which we have inside the class every day, like some practice? Can we have some recording of them or something? So
We're recording it right now.
Oh, that's super.
So you're gonna get a recording of all of us.
Does it come with audio?
Yes.
I hope it's hearable. There's plenty of different meta tags. I urge you guys to go and at home when you have time and look into HTML meta tags. So,
and this exercise, because we were lucky, we got to see all of the projects you submitted when you applied here. So I've seen all of your sites, and by the way, there are all of them were really impressive, and I really love all these amazing topics you chose. I remember some of them. I was really impressed. So you already did this before, but the new thing today is that you are working with your text editor, and you can see it directly in the browser. So we're gonna push you to try it a little bit more, doing it the way that you actually work with it when you work as a developer. And that's why we want you outside of a code pen, or we want you outside of these environments where you sit in a little sandbox and try it yourself for real.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's very, very right. And that's how I also develop. So I do stuff, and when I get stuck or I don't know stuff, I find in code, I Google, and that's very normal. You don't need to feel like, oh, I'm a developer, I should know this. Not always. We don't know a lot of things all the time, so there's plenty of informational websites for V3 schools, but I'm a big fan of always going to the source of information. So Developer Mozilla are these guys who are inventing the code. I mean, they're the organization that they sit down and discuss what should be available in the next release. So I'd go there and I would try to look information for from there, for instance. It's a bit complicated to understand their website. In the beginning, they explain what it is in short, then they explain it in a bit of what kind of things is available there, and afterwards, in practice, you'll notice how to use their websites of information. And well, I urge you to figure out more about meta tags and all the information like that over there.
Maybe just a really quick note. I just wanted to say this now because I realized we didn't say this at the beginning. I think it's good to say just the structure of the day. That what we do is we have a big break at 2 o'clock where we have lunch together. So there will be food, and before that, like in between, we have a break, and it's gonna be in. So the break is going to be in about 10 minutes or so. So we just have a quick break for coffee. We go back, work some more, and then we have the in-between break for lunch. Just to warn you, so if in case you are in need of a break, a break is coming up quite soon.
And
Yeah.
one more question.
Yeah.
You use the head tag plus.
Which one?
After doc is clean.
Can you repeat? I didn't hear after.
Plus
Node.js. Okay, I took this code right now from Boilerplate. So it is like Boilerplate is something you're gonna hear a lot in coding terms. So it's something that is prepared so you could reuse. Instead of me right now writing everything for you from scratch, I just went online, found a boilerplate. It's like a empty clean template so you could reuse. So sometimes they do add something that I might use in the future. This is just a class. This is just right now we haven't dived to classes, but disregard that, and I'll give you a short intro about the classes a bit further. So the important part is here. Okay, let's get rid of this. This would be confusing. All of it, except maybe that. So this is the part where you would write the body of your website. So this is where we're gonna use our elements of HTML, use all the different tags and to describe our data. HTML language is only about describing and showing the data. So this is where we write what kind of information is going to be there, so browser can read it and understand it. So in this case we said, okay, this is the body, this is where the whole, and there are plenty of tags online that language has that we need to learn, that will have, for instance, main. This is one of the HTML5 tags. So right, auto. One of the HTML5 tags that describes, what do you think it describes? It says where the main content of the website begins. So there are plenty of these tags, and all of them have different functions. So you can the most generic one, of course, is called div. So it's just a block that has, it's ambiguous and it's very generic. So you're going to be using this in a lot of places, but it's really important to use right tags for right things. So some of them even have predefined styling or how they work in the browser. So for instance, there are elements like UL, which stands for unordered list. So in this, bullet points, but exactly. So it's if you ever worked with Word documents and something, they have those generic elements, headings, lists, and stuff. So these already have a predefined function. They tell browser this. So what's going to be inside there is going to be a list. The point here is that there's plenty of these elements, and we need to learn them. And you need to learn what functions do they have, and not always use divs to describe your data, because I can do this like my page. Oh, okay. Crazy hands. And this would be potentially visually the same result, but technically it's not what it is. If you want to have a page title, you probably want to have a heading 1 tag, which says this is a heading of the website, and then I write there, and you can see. Okay, let's maybe first see what we have here, and where is our? Where did I see it on desktop? Desktop. So it's a simple HTML file, so we can double click it and your browser should open. What happened? Why didn't it open? Okay. We'll do this one more time. Okay, I see what I'm doing. I'm actually open instead of. Yeah. Sorry, I'm seeing all your stuff. So I saved it somewhere. Where's my project resume? Hello there. And if I double click, it opens in my browser. You can see. Remember I mentioned that my page is now in French language. You see, the browser automatically understood that this website is made in French, and it asked me, "Do you want to translate it?" But that's the feature of Google Chrome. But that's a result of us saying lang in the top page. So everything we do of information about the page, browsers do understand. So another thing, as we saw, I wrote my title and my page title twice, and one time I just did it in a div, and one time in H1. And as you can see, as you can see, they automatically look different because browsers have preset styling and some visuals for certain elements by their function. So that's why H1 looks as it looks right now. And my page looks like this because it's just a div and it has no styling. So point is, use the right tags and right elements for the right purpose. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so...
what's the point of the main tag?
Main tag, good question. And main tag is one of the, as I said, I could have just wrote div, and we'll use in most cases we use elements just to separate data and put them in the right place. As this is a list, this is block of information, this is a header, this is a footer, and we built the pages like that. But then HTML5 was released several years ago, and they decided that we need to be more specific. Instead of using a bunch of divs and tables, they said we have for main element of the body, the whole where the main content goes in, we call it main. There's a header, and there's a footer. So these are just to help browsers and search engines to understand what information lies in your website. Does that make sense? So we just help a browser understand what information is where. And visually maybe it doesn't look different, but the browser is a machine. So now it knows that, okay, this is a main. Because it does not, when we open a page, it's easy for us when we look with our eyes that, okay, this is header, this is navigation menu, this is where the main content is, this is but that's what we see. Machines don't do that. They scan code. And if we don't say it in code what it is where, they will not understand it. So that's why we describe them specifically. So yeah.
What's the difference between paragraph tag and the div tag? Because both of them have the same usage.
It's a really good question. So for example, in a website, the paragraph, it's the text, right? You can write like hi, my name is Nune. I am a software developer. I like to teach. So this is my text. But in my page, I want my picture to be next to my text. And in another part of the page, I want another text about my cat and a picture of my cat. And they are they are not together. They're two different ones. And if I want to tell the website, first there's me, my picture, and the text. And then later there's the picture of my cat and the text of my cat. I can put the first one in a div and the second one in another div. And the div is saying to the website, I'm going to take a couple of elements and I put them together. This is one little group.
It's like grouping, and mainly.
You mean if you want to make a title for the picture, you use div?
No, so div actually, it's the special thing about div is that it's like glue. You glue together a couple of things here, and you glue some things together there.
It's like an attribute class. It's the attribute class.
No.
It's like basically what we do with the div is like mostly we group a couple of things that we want to have them with the same design and CSS.
Possibly,
styling
yes.
things, or in it's mostly with the CSS we work with there.
Yeah.
But we just select there that okay, this group like the one which has this div, it should go with this thing.
Yeah, like it's most of the time when we use div, it's just for our own sake. If we want to style things and like okay, we have a list and text and picture. And browser reads everything from top to bottom. So the way you put them here, the way it's gonna read it. So it's gonna read this first, and it's gonna put this second, and blah blah blah. But if we want to, like, I want to have my page and my title on one side and something else on different side. So what I'll do, I'll group these guys together. I'll group these guys together, and then create another group, side by side with another text. And I'm just gonna give this styling in this group that you need to be on the right, and it automatically be together on the right. So it's just like a visual aid to like put them in one bag and put that bag in another corner, put the other guys in the other bag. So
I think it's a really good element, a good point that this can make more sense when we start styling. Because you notice now we only talked about HTML, and hopefully some of you already wrote a couple of lines for an HTML element and opened it in your browser, and you should see that it looks very boring, right? It's not looking so fancy. And why is that? Like, what do we need to do to make it look nicer? Who can tell me?
You can use the CSS style sheet.
Yes.
Exactly.
And we're also going to do that today.
First, we have to finish the HTML afterwards, so we can just use the CSS style sheet.
Yeah.
So I'll use some tricky markup right now, which is newer. So I'm telling you, this is the top head of my browser, of my window. Give it a name, create a main element with some information, and maybe in the bottom I'll give a footer. There are plenty of these elements, and we need to learn them. There's not too many, and most of them you're gonna reuse over and over again, like div, ULs, main, and but eventually they have their own purpose, and when you learn them, it's gonna be pretty easy to remember. So don't be afraid, and try experimenting. Try going to online, and you know what? It's a good idea to take a British government website. Their code is pretty clean and pretty nice. But sometimes, okay, look, there's a list of links here. I'm pretty sure you can see the page is like really structured in a way. This is a top part, this is a main element, this is all the information basically. So what you can do is take your browser and inspect.
See the code.
Yeah, okay. And you can see okay, now it's, yeah. And you can see it has a lot of elements, and they're grouped and not grouped, and so what you can do is just look at them and look. This is header, and its role is to be a banner header. So inside of it we have this element. So you see, it kind of makes sense how sometimes they not every time they do per se how we want it to do. You see, there's a main element inside of it, so it says that all the main information about it in this page is here. There's probably somewhere a script. So the point is here, you go inspect other pages, see what elements they use for what, and go online and read about them, and you understand why they used it. So that's a good point to start. Okay, so now we need to create this kind of information on our websites. So I want you guys to, maybe after a break, but to start right. Okay, so first I want you guys to create an HTML website like this, with a HTML tag, head tag. You don't need to write all of these, just give it a title, some name for your website. Then in the body elements, start creating elements and writing some information, which is these points. Some information about yourself.
And do everyone have the access to this page where they can see the assignment? Yes.
I'll leave it on the screen, and see. And I want you guys to structure information the way you want it. So think about it. If you want to have a header, maybe a title of your certain things or some resume, add a picture. Google, what's the picture, the HTML tag for picture? Google, what's the, yeah, try reusing these elements right here. And if you have questions, go ask. It's you know, it's all about that. And yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
This is Linux. I'll try to download it. No.
I don't know how to open this on I just put the email.
So you went like a little further ahead?
Yeah, just building more. Just
Oh, we got it here. Okay, so I also urge you to, when you have time at home, how to use Linux. It's an operating system which is slightly, you probably know, it's slightly different than our operating system. It's a more so which is good. Eventually it'll be good for you because
the first time
but yeah, exactly. So
I listened so much about Linux, but I think
it's very cool. Linux is good. Linux is cool.
for hackers.
No, it's good and try learning how to use command line in Ubuntu.
Normally,
Yeah.
when I make down, and install, but after that I don't see the progress. Where? Look,
You tried everything.
Yeah, actually what I do is so I have to I was looking at some of the plans. But it start making and then after that I start working on let's see
Be patient. Now you click on your Internet Explorer and you do it 10 times, so your computer might explode.
collecting Linux. النوامر هو عبارة عن يعني كثير من يعني في هو يشتغل الصناعة
So these computers are slightly so be patient, try not to do that specifically. Now, so let's take a look.
He asked me about the password, quick the password.
Oh,
but he still
it's always the same.
always
With every other.
yeah, I tried a program. Yeah. No.
Something's wrong. Maybe we'll ask Chris to remove this.
Now after 2-3 minutes, you want password?
I put the password because
And it's like, so
One
maybe.
is
Also, I suggest you guys download Chrome browser and Firefox.
It's talking.
That doesn't happen?
No.
Maybe give it a restart. And then, should now. Can you take for a second? It's very slow. It's still turning on. So it's a good thing is like every time we put on the computer, just wait for everything's here. It's very slow. Give it time. Give it a rest. It's very gentle. It's called that. Cool. Sure.
Okay, so you're working so hard. I think it's we got the okay. It's time to have a little break. So if it's okay, this is the short break. So it's just gonna be
I don't know. Might call it like 10 minutes?
10 minutes, and it's just to run to the bathroom and get some coffee,
Tea?
tea,
Yeah.
cigarette if you need that. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's not be 10 minutes. So
10
I
minutes.
expect you to 1:30 to be here.
Yep.
And yeah. And we'll continue working and yeah. Okay, let's maybe grab a Chris. Let's take a break. Take a break first. Have your break, then we'll look at it. It's first class. Rolling. It's a bit slow, but next time we come back, it'll be more hands-on and work. Do you have in your email? Okay, so just write in your email. And maybe then because you were supposed to get an invitation from Chris.
Yeah, I already.
You accepted. Good. So then just go into the Slack and write your email. British keyboard. British keyboard it is somewhere. Oh, it's Danish, of course. Somewhere, or maybe yeah, right. Sorry, you know better. Come on, please, good luck.
Again?
No, check your email.
I checked and I
Yeah, but now in your email you're gonna have a. How do you want to do that? No, try opening your email here. Get your email here, and then you'll get a link that you can click, and it'll open your Slack app. Why not using any editor?
I choose Atom, but I don't know why it's
You cannot install it.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's actually the same for Mohammed.
I'm gonna put the picture. I don't have the picture on my JPG, you know.
Yeah, just
Now I get this computer.
yeah, but go online, go to Chrome and download, go to Google Images and just download any image for now. But for now, but the home I expect you to get your own picture. It's your resume after all. But try googling how to write in yeah. The what? Ah, you want it bigger? Okay. Maybe you want to sit closer because I can. But you can also open this in your computer. I mean, if I make it bigger, it's just not enough text on the screen. It's space on the screen.
That's
so,
fine.
But you try open Hack Your Future stash.
Yeah, I got it on my.
She linked it on Slack.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get some coffee. I'll be back.
نظام نظر شو
هذا زي اللينكس.
لا مش بس لينكس شو اسمه بس فينك تغير اللغة عن
هو صار ساعة من اللغة الإنجليزية.
كيف ابو حميد؟ شو اخبارك؟ كل شيء تمام؟
والله
بتذكرني
بعد ما
فيس 2 ولا 3؟ دير بالك عم بده يرجع يبلش النقل.
لا ما فيش هنا.
والله هذاك كان بدينا. على اني اجوا نقلوا جماعة يانا
How do I link an image from
Uh-huh.
Facebook?
From the Facebook. So, first of all, linking from other pages is not always what you can do because, for instance, big services like Facebook, they don't want you to use their pictures on your website because when people go to your website, they're gonna use their bandwidth and it costs money for them. So in a lot of cases, pages like Facebook, they don't want you to use their pictures. What they want you to is like what you can do is download the picture into your machine in the same folder where like your files are, and then link it from there.
Okay, I would like to try that.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I read some documents,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see that the front-end developer should know the browser. That means what does it mean? Understand? There are many browsers, but we know how to use it, and you can see the code also, and then I know something, but what we should know more. Can you tell me?
So you know all of this, and you want to maybe practice something more?
Yeah.
Look, if you know good markup and languages like HTML and CSS was one of, if you want to be a good front-end developer, this is something you have to know by heart because CSS and HTML is the core of all the courses. This is like a building ground. I'm not saying you're going to build websites in HTML or CSS. Probably going to use some fancy framework like React or Angular or something, but they still are based on this. So you'll need to know this very well. So if you want to practice at home something more, I highly suggest having a good knowledge of CSS and maybe modular CSS. What is how to split CSS files into many different files? How to, like, right now you see we include two files, normalize and main CSS. And yeah, Well, it's hard to tell right now because I don't want to give a heads up that much because we want you to all follow the same learning curve. Maybe I know in the beginning it's gonna be a bit boring if we need to get everyone to catch up at the same level, and then we'll go from there. Really, because you'll see other classes will be very fast. We'll have to catch up. So this is the easy beginning, and we need to do this.
So I saved it on my computer.
Yes.
So now, where do I get the link from?
The image, right?
Yeah.
So first of
I have
all,
the image.
so yeah, in the same you can take the image and put it in the same folder where you have index file.
It is.
In your project file folder, let's say, right? So if it's in the same folder, so if you open you're in the HTML code, it should be like this. Yeah. But in this case, it's you see the path to the file is source. There's an attribute called source where the image comes from. In this case, it's the relative path to this file. So in this case, it'll be from this file to there. So if there's nothing, it means it's in this folder. It's also exactly the same if you use this, like this as well. Like this is the same, this is the same, this is the same. But if you add slash, it's relative. You'll notice in the future there's a slight difference from this and this. But pretty much it's the same. But I would suggest not having a one folder with all the files messing around. I would create another folder called like images, put the image there, and now. So now you can see your folders like HTML files, CSS files, and image folder with image files because your website might have a lot of those. So, just adding some structure to your project. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Alright, one more question. When you want to save a CSS file, do you also write index.css or do you write something else on CSS?
CSS file, it's only the index file only applies to main file that the browser opens. So, if you write in PHP, if you heard, there's another language called PHP. So you can, if you had a project in that, your probably first file would be index.php. But there's only these two files that are triggers. So in CSS, you don't need to. CSS is something that you link into this file. So browser opens this file, and then later on you can probably see that I link my style sheet in here. So let's not do this now. It's gonna. Cool. Boom, boom, boom. Any, I mean, we tried a code editor, and every time I try to install it, it asks for password, to the user, and then it just stops. I don't know. But hey, Don't ask me. I just looked at it. It seems like that's true, but it also happens to them as well. Yeah.
What program did you have to download?
No.
No, it's we all tried to download code editors.
All of them, okay.
Yeah, we tried all the code editors, at least on his computers, and it's the same. It's just generally about not allowing it to install, I guess.
Okay.
Or
But the password was correct for the
it's.
user.
I hope so.
Yeah, here you go.
I mean, maybe you want to check it out with him. I'm totally not a Linux guy, so seems correct, but you know.
Yeah, I know. And it's download from there.
No, download it correctly and then code it.
When I make anything,
Just I don't know, wait.
Did you download it from Linux?
for Linux,
And it's not like somewhere else. It didn't really look like it did and the same happened for others.
because he chose directly for Linux.
Okay. Now, yeah, yesterday I put the slide from Did you already try it?
Yeah. No, I'm not this one. This one. Yeah. It's dancing now. After that, we need the password. Are you put password?
So welcome back from the break. We had a student that pointed out a mistake that's up here. I wanted to ask if anyone else can see the mistake. I'm going to tell you which line it is on. It's on line 30.
There's no flash.
Exactly. Yeah. It's nice, but we love this. If you ever see that
Boom.
the coaches make mistakes, you should always be the first one to say it. Like,
Yeah.
when I hear it.
Roast me.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great.
So, but it's easy to debug. For instance, if by any chance I forgot to close an element, right? I mean, in this case, I don't see browser complaining or saying nothing. Whoa, oops, wrong place. So, what happened here, you see, it still kind of worked. So, modern browsers, what they do, they sort of solve problems by themselves sometimes, but it can solve it problematically. In this case, it added a closing tag later and ignored the rest of my code. So in this case, my layout probably wouldn't look the same. So it's really important when you see that it seems everything's supposed to look right and there's something not showing right. Be sure to see whether your tags are closed and open and there's no semicolons or stops or periods anywhere. Yeah.
Order list.
Yeah.
So it comes the number also.
Absolutely. It's totally your choice.
What's a block quote?
Cool. Okay, it's it's an element that describes that inside of it will be something. It will be a quote. It will be something that I'm citing from somewhere else.
So
And
it's specific.
it's very specific use case. So, for instance, if there's an article online and there's a news reel, like you're reading a news, and there's like, and the mayor said, and then there's commas and blah blah blah. They use the block quote. You know why? In visually, I could probably use a div to do the same result to make it look the same as it was quote. But when I use block quote, the Google and all the browser knows that it's a quote. The point here is that there's quite a few elements like this that have a very specific case, and the more specific you write, the better it is. So what I wanted to show here, I want to wait for everyone to add some. Yeah.
Not the vision yet, the new
Yeah, but still,
I think it might be time to
Yeah.
go to CSS.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to maybe for them to build some of the main markup so they could style. So, yeah. Well, maybe I don't know. We should ask what they got so far and start styling it. How much time we would have?
Unfortunately, we have a few people who are
Install. Okay, so maybe let them code pen stuff out of it.
Yeah, I promoted that already.
Okay. Does it work? Ish?
Yeah.
So what was the issue? Oh, it works. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad. Okay, guys. Everyone's ready. Just waiting. Maybe they want. Yeah, what they are and what they have and games and everything. What I wrote here.
So we could spend the rest of the day just doing HTML, but of course we want to move ahead because we're pretty excited about working with CSS today as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to just see where everyone's at. Did you manage to write a little bit of HTML?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope you have some markup. Maybe you can see I wrote some of it here as well. And, it's kind of okay. You can see some information, but it looks a bit ugly. We want to make it, fancy, sprinkling text, some colors and, whatnot.
Pretty.
Yeah, pretty. So, first of all, I can see something's wrong. I mean, normally my code shouldn't be indented like that, right? So it's an indication that I probably did something wrong. There's something unclosed or something done wrong.
It has to be like child, same like.
Yeah, so guys, look at it here and try to understand where I did something wrong that it doesn't look good here.
Because you have put it ing chart.
Yeah.
Ing, so we can remove that one.
Why? I want to have my image here. Why do I want to have my image there? So what's the problem here? Why is it still looking so misshaped? Does anyone know?
Can you see the code again?
Pictures.
The
picture.
Yeah, there's two things. First of all, my picture is missing.
I have a link for the picture. And the second thing is like, what's a block code?
Block quote is just a different type of markup. So I'm saying there's a quote inside. So again, as I said, there's very specific HTML tags that you should use. For instance, in this case, I'm using a quote that by someone, and I'm telling browser that it's a quote, so it'll know. So that's just an example that I did include my list. Again, I didn't close my list properly. That's one thing. And also, hey, look at the image tag, right? I remember I mentioned that everything needs, what open needs to close, always. So, but I mean, it's one of those not closing tags that doesn't have image here, right? Because it's one of those crazier tags that do not have. So some of the tags, there are a selected few, they actually close like this, I think. Do they? I'm not actually remember.
Yes.
So, oh, look at that. Suddenly fixed it, but of course I'm missing my image. Here, if you look at the code, yeah. And you probably can see that browser has a console and it complains that, hey, look at that, you know, missing a file. So if you open your web code and see the errors, actually browsers gives you a hint where you something's wrong. In this case, it complains, hey, there's a missing file that you're linking, but it's not there. So anyway, that's just a tip. Another thing I wanted to show you while we're almost done with the markup is there's this tool called Markup Validation Service from V3C. So whenever you think you're done with your code, it's a good idea to upload your HTML file here, and it will tell you if you did some mistakes or some code, some issues that it's could be semantic. Semantic is not only that you forgot to close something, but it's not right. You cannot use H1 in 5 H1 tags in one page. So it's a good hint to look.
Oh, see?
You see? It's very good. My browser doesn't complain about this at all. But to be semantically correct, it says like, hey, your tile cannot be empty. So use this tool. I'll put it back in the code, but it's a very good hint to make sure your code is correct.
And also, one thing I want to point out, maybe it can be hard to see, but it says there's an error, and it says which line it's on. And
line 6.
Yeah, and we will, you see in your text editor, you see that the lines have numbers. And right before, when I wanted you to find Marius' mistake, I said look on line 30. So we will already be talking about it like this. It's an easy way if you ever want to discuss some code. We show up here, and you want to say, oh, not that line, no, the other line. Just say the line number.
Yeah.
It's a really good way.
Yeah.
And
Line number 6, right?
Yeah.
And also the
yeah. And this text, it's not so long, but at some point we will have texts that are very long.
Hundreds of lines.
Hundreds of lines. So if you had to find where's the mistake, and you have to read hundreds of lines, that takes a while. So you really need the line numbers.
Yeah, but there's also the good thing about the validator website is like if you don't have a file saved on your computer, so you can directly copy all your links to your coding to the other part, and then you just paste it there. It'll take all the rest for you. That was the mistake.
Okay, so since we have our basic amount of code, we want to start styling it. And this is where we create our first CSS file. So the common, I don't know, not a rule, it's not a rule, but it's totally up to developer, but the common thing is a lot of developers call it, first file always the style.css. Learn that there are some other formats for styling later on, but browser only leads CSS. So what I'll do, I don't like having all my files actually here. So I like to be very, so what I do is have my CSS folder, and then over there I'll save my style.css. So for now it's empty, but what I need to do is actually link it to my code. It's not the only way to add styling to your website. What you can do is the original old way is actually write style. Oh, and of course we need to close it. And in here I can actually start writing my styling directly here, which is not a bad way if you have a short page. But imagine, first of all, the name cascading style sheet means it's style that you repeat and reuse, pretty much. So the point is of the cascading style sheet, you create one style. It's our style code it'll be rules. It'll say like all the headers look like this, all the text look like this, all the body tags look like this, and instead of repeating that every time in every different page, because this is one page, might have a website with 10 pages. Instead of having 10 pages copy paste here, the style of my heading 1 being, I don't know, right? Let's just give it a go. Let's see if it did update. Hey, look at that, right? But then again, if I start writing my code in here, and it's called inline. This is inline in ours. I create another website style. I need to copy it, and then I decided, okay, I need to change my color from red to blue. And you know what I have to do now? I have to go in every single HTML file and change it to blue. So this is not the best way, but you know that it exists. So that's that. So instead of this way, what we're gonna do, we're gonna export it in a separate file. Okay, so they suggest that I call it main. Well, I don't want it to call it style, CSS. So right now my style sheets are empty, but probably I want to add. So styling is very simple. We take target elements. We say that this element or that element will look a certain way. So in this case, I want my H1 to be curly brackets and say color red. Okay, maybe blue. So last time it was red. You can see the change, and it did change because now that my styling sheet is in line, and you can see that it's linked to this file. So
maybe we take a really quick break from you showing, and then everyone must make a new file, call it style.css, and they must make a link to it.
Yeah, link to your HTML file.
And maybe just all do it now.
There's one thing else also, but we can just color grouping as well. Grouping color, I mean H1,
yeah,
H2, H3. So we can put together so all of them is coming blue color.
Yeah. I'll show some tricks in CSS. Yeah. CSS is actually it's a dumb language. It doesn't do. Remember that HTML and CSS, they never do any math. They never do any calculations. They don't do. They just say HTML just says what kind of information is on the page. CSS like how this certain things look like. That's it. If you want to do some math or you want to say that okay, I want my age plus my this combined, you don't do it in CSS or in an HTML.
And maybe we can go also directly. I mean, we don't need to put like style sheet tag, and a start tag for the ending tag, on between the heading. So we can go directly, for example, to H1.
Yeah,
so
that's a bad way.
Yeah,
we should. You should.
Like,
you could potentially style it here in the HTML and say like here.
Class equal.
Yeah, a style here. That's also called inline styling, but try avoid not using this. This is very bad behavior because as a rule, you want to separate your markup and your styling because it will be hard when you have bigger project with a lot of files to maintain. It will be hard to, yeah, it's a good idea to have all stylings in one place, all markup in one place, and if you, for instance, try to change the H1 here, but you also have H1 style here blue, and the other developer, it's somewhere deep in code and you can find it. You change a style, it doesn't change it, and you look at it doesn't change it. It's really hard to find where you. So as a rule, I suggest never having inline code in your markup. Yeah, there was a question. I saw there was an arm. Yeah.
Sorry to ask. I'm trying to link up my style sheet with the CSS style, but in here I've seen it's like the extension is .css.
Yes.
No, the one which I said is like .txt.
TH what?
The extension from my CSS style sheet. It's .txt.
TXT is a text file. It's not. Browser does not understand that.
So I have to change that.
Yes, to CSS. browser needs to understand that this is how we link files. Generally, link tag is not only for CSS. It's linking for other things. For instance, I want to have an icon on my page, so I say link, then I say what kind of file is this that I'm linking to my file, and then I'm giving a link to the file. So at home, check out the link definition and what can be used more than not only for style sheet, but this is the best way to link your style sheets to your code. Just let me know when you guys are done, so we can move on. And
H ref. So you can Google online, why is it particularly called H ref? Like HTML reference. It's like you were saying, it's a reference to another file. So we're going to use, for images, use source. That's where it comes from. Pretty much similar. No, it will work if you don't use relations, but you probably want to say relation, because older browsers will not understand. New browsers will probably figure out that you can look at the files and figure out that it's CSS and it'll work. But I suggest you relations, because you can also relate to a bunch of different icons. Nowadays there's so many devices. There's a bunch of things. So you're helping browser to I use it because I think it helps browser to but I read upon what is made by the designer and what their purpose is. I would guarantee if you remove main and header, it will go main and header will allow the browser to understand what kind of information you're taking. So if I have a header, just say that the browser will search your website and say, oh, this is probably a title of page 6 in the header. Oh, and this is the main content. So by writing this, you're helping the browser. And it's also part of the semantic control. It means that your code is very, very correct. And the browser says Google eventually will reward you for having a really good result. You know, imagine us, we create a website and we put it online and you look for Google web. Front-end developer resume. But we have three so we will have a lot of different things how to search for better, which site is better. By being very correct in code, will be the best way. This is the right guy. So it's really important in business that people who are doing web to be semantic. It's really right definition of the right it's a good debate to start right now. That's it. If it's hard, try writing without it. But in the future, you probably want it. There are plenty of means aside headers. You just have to go in HTML and find what kind of cases there are. It's a slow. Eventually, going to write this so many times that you don't need to go home. Just when you look for something, okay, right now you want to do that. Just one to there's each 1 to 6 exactly. There's an official market for 1 to 6. If you write H7, it will get the same as you write. The browser will not understand what hard it is to do. But there is a purpose of H1, H2, H3. There's also like, you know, like you write a paper in university. You have a heading 1, so you probably use it in the main title of your paper. That
you use H2 and the next topic starts, you also do H2 because they're all on that. So it also puts a hierarchy in your website, the content. So each one knows to identify browser. Okay, so this page is all about resume. Then there's, it's not a good idea to have headings. H stands for heading. So if you want to have regular text, you use P or paragraph text. Yes. Yes. But H is just one thing, so I would rather all of them would be under my details, and then just H2, my details, and then you have a list or a paragraph. We need with families because it's all about you. It's one big topic. And next topic, my hobbies. The next topic, again, it starts with H2. But if you have in my hobbies, three different, they're like, you can divide them by H3, like my sports hobbies, my teaching hobbies, mine, and I would use H3. Because we divide them into smaller and deeper groups, which makes sense. That's how it knows that okay, this is related, this is related, this is one topic, one topic, one topic. So that helps a lot. That's a very good way to go. Headings are a big thing. I'll show you this is HTML. You probably want to do. So you want to include. Good. You use command X. Now you want to save it. Yeah, name it as one. Use command.css. Name it as you want, but it's a good idea to call it like a generic styles or main styling or. It's up to you. And then you import it this way. Okay, so you save the file. You say, I see that documents you haven't saved. You wrote something, but you haven't saved it. So it's like I said, you change so the file is saved, and then you know. So, yeah, you can do that. So it's open your browser. So, or go to the file. So you need to open the file, and the browser will open. Where is your? Yeah, you already saved it. What you need to do, go to your project folder again. Where is it? Where did you save the other? The desktop. Yes. Beautiful. That's my project. There's your file. And now you double click. Yeah. Just say okay. First time. Yeah. So this is what you do, right? And if you want to split the screen, what you can do is full text. Yes. And every time you write, you save, but control S is the same as here and saving. Then you just have there's like some space where you can do that. No, just for example. And those three colors don't very important. So for that we can find the case.
And the CSS give it its values. I think maybe I'll ask you.
So you just have to put like this code, for example, if I want to give this to her.
So what you can do is if you want to see it straight in
4,000. Okay. And no right nothing.
Yes, you can, but it's in the same level. Also, if you open something, then like inside of it.
I think it's really cool. You don't want to put pen, it's fine. So now you do.
So, but UL doesn't work like this. UL is just like it's an ordered list, and UL has something inside of it. There's list elements. So you need to use those LI inside of UL, like in that on the page.
Yeah.
No, I don't. After I mix it.
It's fine.
Yeah. I see. Okay. Okay.
Okay, let's go to our, maybe we made a mistake, let's go to the code. Can I see your code? So, first of all, well, you have problem. Your title is not closed, first of all. Everything that opens always closes.
Yeah.
But your title doesn't. Everything that opens closes. Also, remember I told you that in HTML there's only two elements, head and body. But you also added a CSS. This cannot be there.
This one.
Yeah, they're both they cannot be there. Mm-hmm. So,
No.
save. I see that your file is not. So it's, just look for small mistakes. Always there's, if it doesn't show something, just look, maybe you didn't close it, you didn't open. So now try importing CSS, creating a CSS file and importing it in it. And also, another thing you need to look into, your indentation. If you open the code, you have it everywhere.
Okay.
So it's a good idea to have code like, see what's inside, very nice spacing. You have like, that's, you need to practice on the clean writing.
Is it okay so far?
Yeah, seems alright. Seems. Pause it. God bless you. Yeah, perfect. It's a progress. So, yeah, that's very good. Where is not charging? So, what you can do now is trying some more HTML elements. Now you have list items, you have div with spacing, and so can I see your CSS? So, ECH2. Okay, can I go to your HTML? Can you create a new HTML H2 there? Yeah. But make it purple color.
So I have to put that in the
No, it's fine, but just put it there and call it back to code.
maybe you can put here or something.
Try thing without putting it. Leave this one as is, but create this one slightly different. Try look up what is a class. Class. So I'm just gonna show this now for everyone, but it's a good idea.
It's an ID, excuse me.
There's two things: class. Maybe we continue with CSS, a bit of classes and IDs and stuff like that. We mean stop. It's alright. It's on. Okay, we should then.
Yeah.
We should. And I will totally try to lost track of time.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay, so actually we have so much more we want to keep on going with, but it's already time for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to get a little bit more to eat and have a quick break. We shouldn't take too long, so we wanted to give you 20 minutes for that. So at 2:30, we need to sit back here and do more CSS.
And then we're gonna a bit of CSS, and after that we're gonna learn to use GitHub, where you could upload your projects, right?
Yeah.
That's important.
Great.
So, guys, lunch.
Oh, and lunch, if you didn't see it, lunch is when you go way to the back. There's going to be a table with some food for lunch.
Yeah. Very different. But yeah, I don't want to explain. That's where I'm. It's like a style. Try to. Yeah.
الموقع نفسه كم تنسيز ما انا هقول عكس معي هذا الجهاز البريك اللي هو شوفي انا حددت واحد اي دي هو بتغني يبقى بالسي اس اس اللون والظل والشمول طبعا عم بستعين بالمواقع العربيه بحيث ان واحد يتعامل منهم اكثر كيف يغير شكل حتى التوجه يعني حتى الكتابه
ايه بعرفها بس هاي كيف عملتها؟
هاي كمان امر بسيط مثل اي امر عم نعطيه شوفي هون ماركر اهم شيء تسكري تكتبي فيها بيدك هيك مثل ما انا عامل سهل كثير يعني ما فيها هذا ليكي هذا المطلوب انا بعدين عملت لك كلاس مشان اغير اللون الحجابي حتى شوفي هون انا شو عملت حطيت كمان مربع في اكتب كتابه جنبه يعني حتى في هذا صندوق البوكس بسموه
كيف عملتها هاي؟
ستيب باي ستيب شوي على مو بالكلاس شوفي هدول شايفه هدول لو عملتيهم بطل
ما هو ما كنت
كله بشكل متوازي بيطلع
بس انا كثير حبيت اعمل هيك وتنزل على
هدول اللينك
وفي لينك
داخلي
لينك لا بس كثير حلو
طبعا واحد شوي بتطور هلا بالنسبه لك احسن من كثير لو طورتي حالك
عندي كمان سؤال كيف او بعدين
كيف اللي اخر سؤال الصوره هي انا عملتها على فوتوشوب
اوكي
هي جاهزه بشتغل على فوتوشوب
وبس حطيت طب كيف خليتها تكون طويله ما تيجي
بتعطيها 100% الويدث 100% يعطيك 100 اوكي وين؟ بالست؟
طب بدي احط شارج تليفوني
حطي شارج وين حطيتك؟
لازم شارج حدا
هلا يعني حتنقذ لك تشتغل معه ولا شو؟ لا مو هون فيلم بده اياني اروح اعيش بالمحل. بيلعب حاله. قلت له مستحيل دغري قلت له مستحيل من هون انا ولا حصل. ايه
دخل على
المشكلة انت بتعرفوا كيف بضل يحكي هلا رح يضل 3 اشهر بس عم يحكي ما بفكرش عم يسافر
والله يعني مسطول.
You had the same problem, actually, you too, that you had a hard time installing it. But your computer was a bit worse, I think. No, he's a laptop. It's Chris's laptop, right? Yeah, yeah. So, another thing you can try is you can try one of the other editors because there's a couple of choices. You don't have to take the first one. This is the first one. Let's try edit. Let's see that. Yep.
Name, last name, page, acting, this for answer. And can I make this for resume? No, or not? Because this is for the UI. Okay, so I want to make very quick. This is email.
This
or CD.
Yeah, you can use this, and then you put in the text you put inside this. It says, list of crazy skills, looking, fixing breaks, taking drawings. Here you can say, list of my education. List of my previous jobs.
I forgot all of the information. I'm so afraid to stop it and break it. So maybe stop it and start again when class starts.